Pranam mantra. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupah Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsam Shirupam Shagrajatam Shahagna Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajigam Sadvaitam Savdutam Parijanam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagna Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisa Gopika Kanto Radha Kanta Namastute Tapt Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Shute Devi Purnamami Hari Priye वंशकल्पातरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीति नामिने नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी प्रसाद शतारिणे जय श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिव सदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे राम 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 हरे प्रणाम संकीर्तन की जय इस्कॉन फाउंडर आचार्य ही दिवाएंगे शिला प्रभुपाद की जय 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 श्री श्री गुरु गौरंगा की जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय शंबल भक्त वृंद की जय निताई गौरा प्रेमानंदी हरि हरि बोल Hare Krishna. So we'll share the screen. Okay, Hare Krishna. I would like to welcome all of you today. I see we have Kalavati Radha Devi Dasi Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji. We also have Bhaskar Prabhu today.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Bhaskar Prabhu. Jyoti Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna,
everybody.
Prabhuji.
I see Santa Mataji camera is on. That's good. That's
Hare Krishna
nice.
Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. So we'll get into the discussion. So we are in a third chapter titled Karma Yoga. And this subject that that has been, uh, that has been going on and that has been, basically focus of our discussion from last few weeks. It talks about uh, what is Karma Yoga, and it's mostly for Karmadhikari. So as we spoke last time, that Krishna in Bhagavad Gita has spoken with different personalities, person of different adhikara, or personality who are at different stairs or different steps of yoga ladder. So third chapter is very much talking about the person who has karma adhikar. So this chapter begins, just a quick recap. This chapter begins with Arjun confusion, because in second chapter and some of you who have missed second chapter, maybe I can do a separate session for first and second chapter and maybe part of the third chapter, so that from fourth chapter we all are at the same pace, uh, and we are syncing with the discussion that's going to be coming up. So Arjun thought that Gyan Yoga is better for him because Krishna said so in the second chapter. But he thought Gyan Yoga means basically renouncing the work. And then Krishna is saying, no, no, no. I think you are qualified for Niskam Karma Yoga, not for Gyan Yoga. That doesn't mean that there is nobody qualified for Gyan Yoga. But here particularly, Krishna is saying that Arjun, you are most qualified for Niskam Karma Yoga. And then he says that how to do the Niskam Karma Yoga. And then he also gives him the information, idea about how people who are engaged in karma kandic activity can raise to the platform of karma yoga by doing prescribed duty. And then we went through the cycle of sacrifice, and that was basically emphasis on sakam karma, prescribed duty, which is much better than karmic activity, karma kanda. And then finally, from 17 to 35, Krishna said that you should be acting as an Iskam Karmyogi, and you should be setting the example for others to follow. So up to verse number 35, Krishna said that if you don't follow the cycle of sacrifice, then you'll be engaging in sinful activity. If you don't offer prasadam to Lord and you eat without offering, you are going to be engaging in sinful activity. So many times Krishna says that you should try to refrain from sinful activity. Then Arjun is asking very important question that I heard you said that I should not be engaging. What is that? Very critical. What is that that is forcing me or forcing one to act in unprescribed activities? What is that? Nobody wants to really engage in a sinful activity, but still one end up engaging into it. So what is that make one act in a sinful manner? So this is very important question. This is very critical. So Sri Bhagwan Vacha, let's start from verse number 30 says 37. And if time permits, we'll come back and discuss if there is any specific question. But let us try to finish this chapter today. So Krishna says, Kamesa Krodesha, Rajoguna Samudbhavaha, Mahachano Mahapapam, Vidhiyenam Yaberina. O Arjun, Kamesa Krodesha, Rajoguna Samudbhava. This is calm, lust. Lust, which is product of the Rajoguna, if it's not fulfilled, it turns into anger, which is mode of ignorance. So if the lust is not fulfilled, it turns into anger. And that lust, mahachano, mahachano, the word being used here is mahachano. It's devouring like fire. So doesn't matter, how much ghee we keep on pouring on fire. Instead of being satisfied, fire is going to have intense flame. So this lust, very important concept, this lust is not going to be fulfilled by making or by fulfilling the demand of the lust, because it's mahachano. It's like devouring. You give it, it will ask you more. You'll give it, it will ask you more. So we studied in second chapter that if the lust is fulfilled, then it turns into greed. And if it's not fulfilled, then it turns into anger. So that means lust is either way not good. Either it's getting fulfilled or not getting fulfilled. It's not good. So lust cannot be dovetailed, succumbing. So there are four stages of devotional engagement. The very first one is succumbing, dovetailing, yukta, vairagya, and then spontaneous love. So some of this concept we'll talk more in Isopanishad. But let us, you know, I'm sure all of you are aware what is dovetailing. Dovetailing means trying to engage in a spiritual activity which are still for our for our own pleasure. So not necessarily we are acting uh, to please Krishna, but uh, we ourselves are getting pleasure by engaging in that spiritual activity, which is higher than succumbing in, which is much higher in fact, because you have a you have you still have a spiritual engagement, right? So this lust cannot be dovetailed. Like one cannot say that, okay, I'm going to fulfill my lust and dovetail it in a way that is going to be part of the devotional service. So this lust has to be completely killed. Very important concept again to be noted. This is mahachano. This is not, this is devouring. And you cannot dovetail, Arjun. Rather, it has to be killed. So what are the different degree of lust? And this beautiful verse comes that gives us the idea about what are the different layers, the depth of the lust, how deep lust could get. So he says, Dhumena avriyate vahinir yatha adarso malena cha yatho lan avrito garvas tatha tenedam avritam. So Dhumena avriyate vahinir. Vahinir means Vahi is fire. Dhuma is smoke. As fire is covered by smoke. So the very light covering of the lust is covering of the fire by a smoke. So we have to look at two things, the form and functionality to understand the concept. Two items, form and functionality. So when fire is covered by smoke, the form is there, fire is fire. And fire with smoke also serve the purpose of fire. Maybe with some smoke, but it will give the heat, it will give the light. Atha adarsho malena cha. Adarsho is mirror. Malena is dirt. The second example is given that as mirror is covered by dust. So the form is there. Mirror is still mirror, but functionality is not there. It's not functioning as a uh, mirror because of the dust. So this is second degree of covering. And then
The third one is yatho lavena avrito garvas. So ulbena is basically uh, baby, womb. So embryo covered under garvas, womb. And in that type of covering, there is no form, no idea how the baby is twisted and turned around. And in reality, there is no functionality. So uh, these three types of covering are very, very important to understand. So the covering that fire has with a smoke is the covering of human being, mukulita consciousness. And this is uh, a state where chances of recovery is very high. Human being can become Krishna conscious. Doesn't matter where they are, how they are, but if they want, they can become Krishna conscious. So the covering of fire with a smoke is Mukulita consciousness. And mirror covered with dust is animal consciousness, which is Sankuchita consciousness. So animals have some degree of emotional expression. They talk, they eat. Sometimes you would see cows will, you know, uh, cry also if they lose their calves. So there is some degree of emotional expression, but also animal cannot, recite the verses of Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, or they cannot be part of the spiritual discourse as easily human being can be. So that's medium level of covering. And then embryo covered by is anavritam consciousness, completely covered consciousness. And trees are example of that. So this lust, see how down it can take. It can basically take all the way up to the stage of trees consciousness. And very hard for person in that consciousness to awaken their Krishna consciousness. So this last, which is Mahachano, which is devouring, has multiple degree of covering, and human being, which is Mukulita consciousness, which are ordinarily in Mukulita consciousness. And then from Mukulita, if they take the process of Krishna consciousness, then they become Vikshita consciousness. And if they continue and advance in the process of Krishna consciousness, then they become Purna Vikshita. So there are five types of consciousness: Anavritaha, Sankuchitaha, Mukulitaha, Vikshitaha, and Purna Vikshitaha. But again, this is not being talked here about Vikshita or Purna Vikshita consciousness. We are talking about ordinary human being as such, and their their covering of the lust is very light, and that can be very easily taken away, and we'll hear how that can be taken away. But human being has higher chances of recovery. Okay, so this is very important to remember. This is one of the typical questions that comes in the exam. That please explain 3 degree of different degree of lust and their implications. So you will have to talk about these three examples, and then also, you know, how heavy it is to recover. So that's something uh, normally we ask in the exam. So we are continuing still talking about lust. The verse number 39, Krishna says, this lust is never satisfied. Avritam jnanam etena jnanino nitya काम रूपेण कौन्तेय दुष्रूपेण अनलेन च. So avritam jnanam etena jnanino nitya arina. For so there is knower and there is knowledge. So knower has the knowledge. Prabhupada here translate jnanino means a person who has awakened his pure consciousness. So, avritam jnanam etena jnanino nitya. This lust has completely covered the Krishna consciousness or the higher consciousness or the pure consciousness. And due to that, the human being are bewildered. Kam rupena konteya, dus rupena anilena cha. And what is this covering? This covering is like fire. So what fire does is that keep on giving little bit, ghee, a sprinkling of the ghee, it will it will become intense and intense and intense and intense. So this lust, the very important point to be noted here is that for Krishna consciousness, in order to awaken one consciousness, this is Nitya Bhairi, eternal enemy, not short-term enemy, eternal enemy. So this lust, which has covered the consciousness of a living being as fire covers, is eternal enemy. So since this is the eternal enemy, it has been coming life after life, whatever form we have taken. This lust must be killed. It must be slain. So very important concept once again, very important. This lust must be slain. There is no compromise with this lust. This lust must be slain. This lust must be killed because this lust is Jnanino Nitya Bhairina. For a Jnani, this has been acting as a eternal enemy, Nitya Bhairi. So, oh, Konteya, this need to be slain. Then very obvious question comes. Okay, so how to slain it? First, we have to know where this lust lives. Where is the residence of this lust? Then Krishna says, Indriyane mano buddhir asya adhisthana uchyate. Asya, for that. For whom? For this lust. Indriyani mano buddhir. Indriya, mana, mind, and buddhi, intelligence. Indriyani manor buddhir asya adhisthana uchyate. It is known as the residence for asya, for lust. Etair vimohati esa jnanam avritya dehinam. And this lust which are residing in Indriya, senses, in mind, and in intelligence, has very much eluded. So residing at these three places has very much eluded. The word here that is being used, bimohyati, bimohati, completely bewildered, has completely bewildered the intelligence of a intelligent being. So this lust resides at three places: senses, mind, and intelligence. So please remember where the lust resides. So we are now talking about slaying, completely killing that lust, which has been our eternal enemy. The place of residence for the lust is Indriyani, Mano, and Buddhi. So we'll continue reading. So Krishna says, Tasmat Tvam Indriyani Addau Niyamya Bharatarsabha Papanam Prajahi Inam Jnana Vijnana Ashanam. Gyan, ordinary knowledge. Prabhupada in the purport says Vigyan is science of Krishna consciousness, critical knowledge. So Tasmat Tvam Indriyani Addau Niyamya Bharat Arsabha. Oh, great personality. By regulation, by regulating the senses, the smart, to that, to who? To that lust. The smart tvam indriyani addau niyamya bharatarsabha papa nam prajahi hiyanam jnanam vijnanam nasanam. That lust, which is root cause of killing or slaying your gyan and vigyan, in order for that to be slain, first you should regulate the senses. Now we'll talk why first. We just said that lust resides at senses, mind, and intelligence. Krishna is giving us the technique that how the lust can be clean, can be completely killed. He said that regulate the senses. First you have to do is that regulate your senses. Okay, and regulate the senses by anukulena sankalpasya pratikulena vivarjanaha. This is the principle of Krishna consciousness also. Anukulasya sankalpasya, whatever is going to be favorable to Krishna consciousness, do that. And pratikulasya vivarjanam, and anything which is not in favor of your Krishna consciousness, vivarjanam, reject that. Again, multiple, level of understanding, how serious the soul is. That's how the impact of this statement will be on their consciousness. But overall, anukulenu krishnanu silnam bhaktir anyavilasita sunyam, that's the pure definition of the bhakti that is coming from nectar of devotion. So engage in anukul, in favorable activity. And for that, you have to follow some niyama, 4 regulatory principle that normally we take vows when we take the initiation. Why? Regulate the senses. So how to conquer the lust? Indriyani prani ahur indriyavya param manaha Manas tu param buddhir, yo buddhe pratastu saha. So indriyani praniyahu, because the senses are superior than dull matter. Dull matter has has no degree of consciousness. Senses has some degree of consciousness, right? Flower itself cannot smell the flower, but the same flower, when you bring at your nose can tell, yeah, beautiful fragrance, right? The senses have higher intelligence. My ear can hear good vibration or bad vibration. My eyes can see. It's develop intelligence, right? My tongue can say something which is not clear. If you put on the tongue, it is a bitter. Oh, it's sweet. It's intelligence. So senses are more advanced than dull matter. So senses are more advanced than dull matter, and advancer than senses are mana, thinking, feeling, and willing. These are the symptom of mind. And then manastu parar buddhi. And from even mind, intelligence is higher. Yo buddhe parastu saha, and higher than intelligence is soul. So there is a uh, there is one slide that I might have presented many times, and that is coming from Prabhupada's purport, that there is different degree of consciousness. There are different degree of intelligence of the human being. There, there are people whose intelligence are very dull. There are people whose intelligence are up to sensual pleasure. There are people whose intelligence are developed up to mind, thinking, feeling, willing. Higher than that is the intelligence, consciousness. Higher than that is soul, right? Higher than soul is consciousness of the demigod. Higher than demigod consciousness is Brahman consciousness. Higher than Brahman consciousness is super soul consciousness. And highest most consciousness is the consciousness of Bhagwan. So living beings are in different bucket of their consciousness. Some says Shastra doesn't make sense to me. Science makes more sense to me, maybe at the stage of intelligence. But higher than that is the person who can say that, nope, I am a soul. And every all functionality that I'm showing, I'm doing, it's because of the presence of a higher energy, soul and super soul. So these are the different, degree of advancement. And higher the consciousness becomes, the subtler it becomes. So intelligence is more subtle than mind. Soul is more subtler than intelligence. Super soul is very subtler. And Bhagwan is even subtlest. So when somebody says, I don't see Krishna, makes sense, because one has to have a very high consciousness to perceive that subtlest intelligence, the subtlest, feature, subtlest consciousness. So that is why, as a devotee, as a fully grown up, developed devotee, we have to see the consciousness of the people, and it comes in context of Kanistadhikari, Madhmadhikari, Utmadhikari. Being able to see that, sometimes you'd be able to tackle, sometimes you would not be able to tackle, leave it. Because what you can do, people are in a certain, stage of their consciousness. So this is very important to understand that there are different degree of advancement. So Krishna says that that higher than senses are mind, higher than mind is intelligence, and higher than intelligence is soul. So you should first try to regulate and conquer over your senses. Now, how it works. For a ordinary people, their senses dictates what to do. So how does it work? People have intelligence, and intelligence says that I want to do it. As soon as intelligence decide that I want to do something, mind captures it. And mind has thinking, feeling, and willing. Mind has some past experience. The commonly known term is Vashna. That's itself will require a lot of discussion, but has some experience. Mind has some experience. So when intelligence says that I want to do something, mind says, yeah, this is going to be awesome. Dhayato visayam pumsam. This is going to be awesome. Then mind dictates, the senses, says that, hey, why don't now you look for it? It will give you pleasure to you. And then senses starts looking for it. And then it engages into uh, that sensual activity. So you can see how this order is working. So this is basically a common way the ordinary people work. Okay. Why? Because they are going in a opposite way. Okay. Their senses are telling overall mind that, yes, this type of thing, if I do, it's going to give me more pleasure. And mind says intelligence, yes, justify it. It's good to do. And then somewhere soul is. But for a very self-realized person, he acts on the basis of super soul and soul. So soul, no, I'm a soul. Okay. So I should do what is good for the soul. So the intelligence decides to do only thing which are good for the soul. And then soul gives the power to intelligence, and intelligence receives the mind receives the power from the intelligence that don't do this and do it. So intelligence is accepting and rejecting. So intelligence will say that accept this. Mind will say, okay, I'll do it. I'm not going to do anything else. And then mind will say that, hey, sense, only eat Krishna Prasadam. Only go and seek the association of a devotee. Only chant the name of Krishna. Only do activity which are going to elevate your consciousness, right? So see, that's how it works. So a person who is fully realized, his senses are not controlled by matter, not controlled by anything ordinary. Rather, the order is coming from the up, right? So one side you have a consciousness of a fully advanced self-realized person. On the other side, you have consciousness of a ordinary human being. But as a sadhaka, as we are trying to be devotee, we sometimes act on both platform. So our stage is more of a dynamic stage. Sometimes we'll do something because we have to give, oh, I have been chanting whole day, I have been reading whole day. Now come on, I need a little bit, relax. Okay, let's do something. Okay, so do something. And then a little bit do something. And then you realize, no, I should not be doing it. Guilt. Because my value system is aligned with the teaching of Guru Shastra and Sadhu. So, so then your value system will tell the certain swabhav that you have is not good. Then you say, let me fix it. Then it starts, acting in other direction. So that's what the dynamic stage is. As long as we are not pure in our Krishna consciousness, that is why every time introspection, Sranam, Mananam Nididhyasnam. You have heard it, right? This Mananam is very important for sadhaka because at that stage, sadhaka can decide certain act that he did was because he acted as a conditioned human being, or did he act as a self-realized person? Oh no, it was good. It's nice that I acted as a humble servant. Let's do it more of that, right? Oh no, let's get rid of that one. So sadhaka is in a dynamic stage. Sometimes his you know uh, uh, sense of urgency is coming from the senses, and sometimes it's coming from the value system. So I just wanted to make this point clear that why Krishna is asking first to control the senses, because if senses are being controlled, then mind will be controlled, then intelligence will be controlled, and then one can come to the stage of understanding that I'm uh, I'm a soul. So that's the basically order that's given by Krishna. At first, regulate your senses, and then slowly and slowly, slowly and slowly regulate your intelligence. And then the last verse from this chapter is that evam buddhe param buddhva samasta atmana atmana jahi satrum mahabaho kam rupam durashadam. So we have our mind, and we have our intelligence, and we are the soul. So, oh Arjun, you know yourself that the person you are as a soul are superior than this matter, senses, mind, and intelligence. Okay, so strengthen the strength of your soul, or not the strength of the soul, but revive the consciousness of you being the soul by engaging your mind in Krishna conscious activity. So if you are keeping your mind steady and engaging yourself in higher intelligence, there your intelligence will be purified, and slowly you would be able to understand that you are soul. Okay, because as such you are higher than this matter, this senses, this mind and intelligence, but this is not known to you. You are not always acting as a soul, but you can start acting as a soul when you practice. And what is that practice? Engage your mind. Engage your mind in Krishna conscious activity. Engage your mind in higher intelligence. And then slowly, you'll become an intelligent human being. So the next chapter starts talking about all the transcendental knowledge, and it talks about intelligence. So that is how this chapter wraps up. Krishna concludes that as a living being, as a soul, you are superior than matter, senses, mind, and intelligence. And in order for you to identify that you are, or in order for you to act as a soul, you have to study your mind, and you can study that by taking and engaging yourself in Krishna conscious activity. And that way, your lust will be completely killed, because we have to kill this lust. We talked about this verse in previous chapter. Dhyato vishayan pumsha sangaste supajayate sangat sanjayate kama kama krodha vijayate krodhat bhavati sammoha sammohat smriti vibramah smriti vibramashad buddhi nasho buddhi nashat pranashyati. So it's a homework for you to read this and also read this and try to see if you can draw some parallel line. Here Krishna says that dhyato visayan pumsham, by the living being, by meditating on the object of sensual pleasure, visayan, shangaste supajayate, they develop attachment. And by that attachment, calm comes. Okay. So we also talked about that on on this ladder or on the steps, 4 items are symptoms of a surrendered mind, and 4 items basically are the items which forces intelligence to lose the capability of discrimination and past experience and determination. And that's what Arjun is saying. Why? What is that that making everything go balad, completely against of what living being wants to do? Krishna says, here is this lust which resides in your senses, in your mind and intelligence. You have to conquer that. And how you can conquer that? By first regulating your senses. Anukulenu Krishnanu, Silanam Bhakti. Of course, it takes us to the higher stage of Krishna consciousness, which is Shuddha Bhakti. But start practicing it and start, going from up to down, and then finally you'll be able to kill this lust. But oh Arjun, know for sure, you are not this mind, you are not these senses, you are not this intelligence. You yourself are superior to all of these senses, mind, intelligence. So why don't you engage in the activity which is meant for you? Jivare Swarupa Nitya Krishna Das. No, you are meant to be always happy. But you are losing that happiness by going after this temporary happiness, which is the result of sensual and mind and engagement of your intelligence. Okay, so with that, I would like to give a pause. Thank you, Hare Krishna. Let's see if there is any discussion before we get into um, next chapter. Anything that anybody would like to share? Ask.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can you maybe more elaborate on that regulating senses, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, can you uh, ask more clear question than just asking regulating the senses? Can you ask very specific, like what exactly you are trying to understand, Mataji?
Uh, so, yeah, regulating the senses means like, well, suppose for eyes, we wanted to show the Krishna. For maybe uh, hands like that, we need to do the service. In this way, you are saying regulating the senses, or like maybe more elaboration on that. That's what I wanted to.
So there are, I just said at some point, let me see if I can, uh, you know, find that slide. Just 1 minute, Mataji, okay? I know visual makes more sense to you. Let me see if I can pull that up. 1 minute. That way I will have to talk a little less. Where is my lectures?
I just remembered that Prabhupada's
Yeah, you can continue
Sarpat,
talking, bro.
Yeah, I just remember that Prabhupada's purport in the second chapter where he's talking about Ambarish Maharaj. Each and
Yeah.
every senses are engaged in, and that is the most crude way to explain how to regulate the senses.
Yes,
Right.
Prabhuji. Yeah, I do remember like Ambarish Maharaj, whenever we are saying, his eyes is always looking at the Krishna, his hands is always cleaning up the temple, his legs is always like going to the temple, like this thing. But in practical way, it is not really possible, right? Maybe it's not possible means maybe, but as a grihastha, as doing lot of activities, so there is a somewhere we need to start off and slowly things goes on, right? And so I'm asking in that perspective, where it's suitable to a current life.
Yeah, Mataji, I didn't find it, but here is the thing. The very important thing is that we need to let's talk about this particular slide that I was just sharing to keep it more precise to your questions. If you really try to see this one here, are you seeing this, Mataji? The slide where it says that Dhayata Visen Pumsa Sangaste Supajayate.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes. So you are 100% right. It's not going to happen just the day we decide that you want to be a pure devotee and next day you are pure devotee. It's not going to happen. There is a war of tug, and that war is between where you want to be and where you are. So where you are is Swabhav. If you don't follow me, please ask me. So wherever we are, that's our Swabhav. But wherever we want to be, that's our standard. So we cannot get to our standard right away. Arjun is asking, my dear Lord, you are asking me to control my mind. Controlling mind is seems to be much difficult than controlling the wind. Says Abhyas Yogena Kaunteya. Oh, Arjun, by by Abhyas. Okay, by Abhyas you can do it. Here Krishna also says that niyamaya, by regulating the senses. So when we say regulating, that doesn't mean regulation doesn't mean it's perfected. It's attempt that we are making. So it's very important that we make our attempt to regulate. And in order for us to make the attempt, we have to look upon these things. What are the things, that I am most of the time contemplating on? Okay, I might not be a pure devotee, but we all are every time thinking, how can I become a devotee like, you know, XYZ? How can I serve like His Divine Grace Prabhupada? So every time, if your if your thinking, if your contemplation is very high, then you will start associating with the people who are like one of the reason you are doing this course, because you are trying to get there. So you are doing it. There is some regulation already happening. Otherwise, at this time you would be doing something else. But you decided, no, let me go and study Bhagavad Gita, Bhakti Shastri, Bhagavad Gita, listen the words of Krishna. So this is already, regulation. So slowly and slowly, when our desire is purified, we'll have more zeal to control and regulate our our senses. So what you can do, very simple thing that all of us are doing, is that we need to have DT at our home.
And when you are cooking, cook for them. So whole cooking that you are doing before you were cooking and not offering it to anyone, that was just the activity. But now when you are doing it and offering it to deity, then it becomes part of devotional service. That regulation, you added Krishna now. Cleaning your house, now since deity lives in that house, that's devotional service. So your hands are engaged, your feet are engaged. When you are inviting devotee at your house and serving them, that's your engagement. When you are going to be teaching into the Sunday school, you are teaching them about Krishna. Your mouth, your intelligence, your mind is engaged in uh, uh, Krishna conscious activity. When you are hearing kirtan, so that's the thing. We don't have to right away start talking about some of the exalted personality. Rather, from where we are, we have to take the baby step, and the baby step is that dovetail. I have a desire to sing. Let's sing only Krishna's version. So that's dovetailing, right? There is still some personal pleasure, but I'm doing it to please Krishna. So slowly and slowly, slowly and slowly, when we kind of very much define our domain, our space where we are living, and in my space right now, whatever I have, all of those that is within my decision space, all of them are Krishna conscious activity. So I am always engaged in Krishna conscious activity. And then that will bring purification. And with that purification, I will engage more in Krishna conscious activity. So it's basically continuous process. It's not discontinuous, function that either you exist or not exist, but slowly and slowly, slowly and slowly, slowly and slowly, slowly and slowly, we go up. Most of the living being, they are sucked in. This material energy is out there and it's presenting all the facility to the living being. And whoever is not trying to be God conscious, let's put the broader word, they all are sucked in by it. Okay. So Shastra says that succumbing must be avoided. You don't want to be sucked in, like in a vacuum, sucked in all the dirt and dust and everything. You don't want to be succumbing. The very nearest step is dovetailing. And dovetailing is the one that I would recommend you. That anything that you do, see if there is activity which takes me towards Krishna, such as smelling the flower, driving to temple, living, giving classes, teaching to Sunday school. All of these are regulation of your senses. And with that regulation, slowly and slowly, slowly and slowly, purification will happen. So that is already happening, but keep it and take it to next step rather than going down. Nothing else. Brahmand Bharmitya Konno Bhagyavan Jiv, you have suffered a lot. We have suffered a lot. And by mercy of Krishna or Guru or Sadhu, we have gotten this opportunity. So don't let it go back now for any other reason. Oh, this thing, that thing. The mind will give thousands of reasons to pull you back, but they say, no, mind you have, really made me suffer. Now I'm not gonna hear you. Intelligence, I know you think shiny thing is better for me. No. So slowly and slowly, slowly and slowly, slowly and slowly, it will happen. Never go back now. Don't pray Krishna, my dear Lord, I don't want to go back. Please help me. I can go off, uh, ahead. Sadhu Sangha is the key. And then engage devotional service. Take active, some services. Keep yourself, Mataji, as much as you can occupied. I'm not saying that over stress and kill yourself, burden yourself out, but slowly and slowly, slowly and slowly, take it to higher step. And always, always look for something where you can do something for Krishna. And that's how, we can. I just wanted to give you the practical answer there are some Shastric, verses that I can quote, but let's take it in a very simple way, that take it, in a very practical way. Do whatever you can do and be regular. Be regular. Not one day you did too much, next day you don't do anything. I just said in one of the class Nityananda Parents Day, I said that three things are recommended by acharyas. We have to be regular. So how to basically have dovetailing? You have to be regular. You have to regulate yourself, which means rules and regulation, do's and don'ts, and then respect. Develop respect for anything that you are doing. Feel enthusiastic. I'm tired, my body is tired, but my zeal is not tired. I'm so happy that Krishna is letting me talk about this Bhakti Shastri. Bhakti Shastri is the means, is just the way for me to occupy. So likewise, find thousands of the reason, and you'll be pretty good, Mataji. You're already doing it, but don't let the negative energy come in and then suck us, back. Okay, so it's
what is the third one? Prabhuji? Third one, you said the two of them. Three.
So yeah, be regular, Prabhu.
Yeah.
It's very important to be regular. So we have to have a schedule. We have to have the time and table for doing the things. And then second thing is regulation. And regulation means anukulenu krishnanu. Sankalpasya. Whatever is particular, I'll do it. And whatever is not favorable, I'll not do it. Okay, partikulasya vivarjanam, anukulasya sankalpa. So that type of regulation. Okay, I would not do this. I would not spend too much time watching YouTube. Was there any why? I mean, there are a lot of things going on, right? One of the devotee, he was sharing one of the class. He was saying that once somebody asked, I think it was Giriraj Swami Maharaj, that Guru Maharaj, what is your bhav for month of Kartik? And Maharaj said that not thinking too much about what's going on around. That was his vow. Why? Because I don't want to give too much importance of the things happening in the material world, sucking me out. I mean, now you would say that why? Somebody may say that why we don't have to do it. We have to do it. We have to know what's happening around. Yes, but don't completely get sucked into each and every details of what's happening in the material world. What this material world was before you came, and it will continue to exist, and it has been existing. We are just like a bubble, water, droplet. So understand what is what is best for me. Sixth Goswami, when he came on this planet, there were Muslim, there were like a Mughal emperor and all of that, right? And do you know that he didn't know about all of this? He knew. So, but Acharya presents the example, critical example. Living being should know the root cause of their existence and focus on the main important thing. Now, Asto Brahm Jigyasa, now since I have come to this stage where I'm inquiring about Krishna, let me focus on what is topmost priority for me. Don't unnecessarily get sucked into so many things. So avoidance. Sometimes we have to just let it happen. I can't do anything. This is not in my control. My duty is that I can only be subservient. That I can do. I can't control the whole world. So, have that regulation. What I have to do, what I don't have to do, what are my limits, know your limits. And that's called, basically mature devotee. A mature devotee will carve each and every scenario and stay focused. And then third thing, so I said regular, be regular, regulate. And third thing I said was respect. Respect best now, whatever, whoever is, coming to you. That's the quality of the Madhmadikari, right? So these three things, this is some, summarized way to remember. more than three things are there, but for us to act in a way that we are always conscious, some of these things are very important. So yes, slowly and slowly, be assured that you are not the person who you were 5 years back. You'll be not the same person 5 years in future. We are always going up, going up, going up, going up. Now, how the process is going to be? Is it going to be too rapid or too slow? Very much depends on you. Very much depends on you. It very much depends on the living being. Krishna has given that independence, will. So regulate, Mataji. We have to regulate, and regulation is coming. It will come in future. We'll be more regulated by engaging ourselves in Krishna conscious activity. This is just another pictorial way of what we have just talked throughout this class. Okay, so anybody has anything before we adjourn? It's 12:06. I would like to conclude if there is nothing.
One quick thing, Prabhuji. So,
Yes.
so karma is defined. It's kind of bigger term, right? Like one sense we see it's a sense gratification. The other say mainly that is a sense gratification. I see the definition as, but the other in your one of the slides it is defined as a lust and greed. Sorry, lust is defined as greed, and there is one more word used. Sorry, I misread. And Prabhupada also mentions this material world as a Maidunyagara, that means the shackle of the sex life. That is another main thing. So how do we define this lust? How do we have a conceptual thing? Lust means it's a
Lust is not only sensual activity or the activity that gives us the sensual pleasure. Lust here means all unwanted material desire. So lust is a broader term here. All the desire living being has for their pleasure.
Yeah, Prabhu. In I remember just one of the definition. I think in Nectar of Devotion, it is Prabhu's mention is when the object of your love is something other than Krishna, it is lust.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So when Krishna is not in the center, and we try to put ourselves in center, then any activity that we do, it becomes lust. But when we put Krishna in center, then it becomes, depend how you are doing, it becomes dovetailing, and then it will become yukt vairagya. We'll see the technical definition of the dovetailing with vairagya later. And then finally it has to be a spontaneous love, ragatmika bhakti. So that's what it is. So lust is broader than just some sort of activity that gives us the sensual pleasure. Okay, Jyoti Mataji, I see that you are signed twice. Jyoti M, Jyoti PC.
Oh yeah, I sign in from my computer, and then I also sign in from my cell phone, and it usually works out pretty good.
Awesome, thank you. So, should we do a separate class for devotee who missed chapter first and second, and third also part of that, or should we just continue when we can follow later? Bhaskar Prabhu, what do you think? Okay, you can text me, dear devotees, if you like me to. If it's really difficult to follow chapter 4, and if you want to know the background of our discussion that we did in chapter 1 and 2 and in 3 also, I have no problem. I can just have a separate session for those who would like to go through chapter 1, 2, and 3. But from next Saturday, we'll start chapter 4. Vanchkalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhubhyavasya patitanam pavanebhyo
वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Assemble भक्त वृंद की जय। ISKCON founder आचार्य हरि Divine Acharya Prabhupada की जय। Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Dandot Pranam Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna
Hare
Prabhu, thank
Krishna.
you.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Thank you,
Hare.
Prabhuji. Hari Bol. Dandavad. All goes to
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dandot Hari Bol.